This video contains no story mission spoilers for Renegades, but does show gameplay of new Renegades content. Hello gamers and welcome back to part 9 or something of my ongoing series. I played with new exotics before you. Haha hee hee.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Today we are covering the 3 exotic armor pieces coming in Renegades. Bungie gave a little preview video of these a while back. I'm going to be giving some gameplay impressions of them, first impressions, not like a full complete breakdown or anything like that of these exotics. Titans, you are getting a jetpack.
They fly now?
Yeah. Praxic Vestment gives you an air move jetpack. Weapon and arc-powered melee kills give you jetpack energy. You wait for your meter to fill up. Then when it is full, you hit your air move button while in the air and launch yourself towards wherever you want to go. If you hit a target, it will deal melee damage to that target. It will buff your melee stat for a bit, and it does a blinding AoE to any enemies nearby. So I did not really get to build craft much with this exotic when I was at Bungie, so the footage that you're going to be seeing is pretty much just the exotic at face value. I wasn't the most impressed with this exotic as a result, but I'm sure if I optimized with an arc setup or an arc blinding setup or maybe even a prismatic setup, that I would have been more impressed. I did have a couple of gripes about this exotic. Number one, the jetpack is slower than I originally imagined, and it takes a little bit of getting used to the controls while you're in the air. You might think of this as some sort of Thunder Crash type exotic or like Thunder Crash-esque movement capabilities, and it is much slower than that, with much more subtle movement needed to navigate around with it. You want very small adjustments. There's a bit of a learning curve to figure out how slow or how fast you need to adjust mid-flight. Number 2, I wish the impact had more like right now it just sort of feels like you haphazardly collide into a target, like you accidentally flew into them and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, versus really feeling the impact of you like slamming your knee into the enemy. With shoulder charge-esque moves, you really feel the impact with like the sound and the camera and the character movement. It feels good. It feels like you hit super hard with those attacks. I want that feeling, but with this exotic, but I'm not sure how to get it. It might be like a camera issue because you can't really be like swinging the camera in certain ways when you're flying around because that could, you know, introduce some sort of weird motion sickness thing. I don't know, but I just, when I was there, it didn't have as much oomph as I feel like I wanted. I think PvPers are certainly going to have a time with this exotic, but I did not do much PvPing during the event because Walla and Pure Chill were there, and I didn't feel like getting my ass kicked for an hour trying to get a clip of me using a blaster, so maybe hit them up for their impressions. But PvE-wise, you know, with all the strength that I already have in my build, with the new Renegade abilities at my fingertips when we're in the Lawless Frontier, with all the tools in my kit, I kind of had to like remind myself multiple times to use this exotic. And when you could actually find a big cluster of enemies, which to be fair you will very often in the new activity, then getting a big AoE blinding hit off can feel really good. But I was also in lower level content, so it might not be the smartest thing to try to pull off in higher difficulties, like flying face first into a group of enemies. I thought of this as more of a novelty item versus something I was in a big hurry to focus a build around. It is fulfilling a power fantasy, with that fantasy being you can fly. If that is something that looks fun to you, then I think you're going to enjoy this. But if you're looking to really min-max yourself very aggressively, there's probably going to be some better options out there for you. Although, again, for a final time, I was not optimized very well for this exotic in terms of my build. So there could be more out there. Warlocks, your exotic is essentially Vesper of Radius, but instead of blue raspberry flavored, it is green apple flavored. Daimo Suffusion is where, when you have a Strand super equipped, so Strand or Prismatic, Casting Rift suspends nearby enemies. Suspend deals damage to those targets, and it heals you, and targets that break free suffer even more damage, and killing suspended targets also heals you. So, I'll keep it spoiler-free for now, but if you watched the weapon video that I also released, there is a fun new weapon that can pair very nicely with this exotic, although the weapon focuses on a different aspect of Strand than what this exotic is doing, but they pair up very nicely. Goes without saying, but this exotic is great. Very, very good. Being able to drop a rift and instantly suspend enemies around you is an incredibly good effect, especially with other suspend-themed things that Warlock has, like the Wanderer aspect, or Thread of Mind, or Thread of Wisdom, or Thread of Continuity. Weaver's Call, being a when you drop a rift ability, also allows you to play into Threadlings a bit, so you could opt for a suspend Threadling hybrid setup, which is mainly what you're seeing me do in this gameplay. You can use this exotic both offensively to suspend a lot of targets or defensively as a way to try to get out of trouble, not to mention getting some healing, which is definitely one of Strand's weaknesses. It's the main reason I thought Prismatic was better for Threadlings, you know, having that survivability. Lawless Frontier, coming with Renegades, the new activity, has very, very dense enemy spawns, on top of the fact that a lot of the objectives in this activity usually take place in some sort of a circular or squared area versus something like a strike where you are constantly moving forward. As a result, you will be able to tag many enemies very reliably in this activity, especially thanks to this thing's 10-meter radius, which is larger than you might expect. Combined with the new exotic weapon, I was having a blast running a Suspend Threadling hybrid build, and it's probably going to be the first build that I make when Renegades launches. All that being said, I can understand being a little disappointed in this exotic because it is so similar to Vesper of Radius, but it's still really good and really fun. Hunters, I'm not going to lie, your exotic is not nearly as exciting. Fortune's Favor are boots, and they do the following. After landing a final blow at full health, or when you're out of combat for a while, you slowly generate a Void Overshield. When you have a Void Overshield, your weapons gain increased accuracy, stability, handling, and damage against combatants, and final blows give increased mobility for a short time once your Overshield is depleted. The damage increase is 15%, and it is 15% for any and all amounts of Void Overshield. It doesn't scale based on how much Overshield you have. It is just 15%, whether it's 1% Overshield remaining or 100%. And it is Void Overshield. It is not some special, unique version of Overshield that only works with this exotic. So any Void Overshield will give you this effect, which allows you to build craft at least a little bit. Part of the reason I wasn't super interested in this exotic in PvE is because the Lawless Frontier features health rules found in the Nether. Your health does not regenerate over time. So a large portion of the time, you are not going to be even able to activate this effect in the Frontier unless you're out of combat or somehow at full health. Granted, this footage is me being solo, so I'm sure with a group it'll be a little less painful, but how often were you at full health in a place like the Nether? Probably not that often. I also tried the new solo ops using this exotic, and I wasn't thrilled with it in a solo environment because the only way you generate the shield is being at full health or out of combat, which just doesn't happen that often. I found myself hiding away trying to get full health to start generating the shield, and because I didn't want to lose the shield, I found myself playing kind of passively. It can play into some Void subclass build crafting though. Maybe Echo of Vigilance for some more Overshield procs, or maybe there's a different build that you want to use focused on healing to get you back to max health ASAP. So there could be some hope there. But Hunters already have very powerful setups, and so I'm feeling this is going to be more of a PvP focused item than a PvE one. The damage buff in PvP is not as high, although I don't know the exact number, but I think my concern for PvP is that people are just going to be sitting around waiting for an Overshield to proc, and then they're going to be just lurking in a corner invisible waiting for it to happen, and that's just not really that fun. I guess we'll see. That is your exotic armor preview for Renegades. Let me know how you're feeling about them in the comments. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.